One of my favorite quotes of that first chapter is this: when a risk-on moment hits, you can feel it in your bones. It's a euphoria stronger than any drug. In a flash, you see years into the future. With clarity so vivid, you no longer have a choice. It's a calling. You have to take action. How many of you want to feel like that in your life? Let me see by a show of hands. Come on, put them up there. That's what this is about. That's what RiskOn is all about. And what Todd has created is going to give you that desire, that want, that need, that vision to move forward. Now, that good-looking guy right there. I thought I would tell you a little bit about myself, just so you kind of have an idea. Why is that big house right there? Because it was the very first one I bought. I was 23 years old, college kid, so that was about 5 years ago. Okay. Be that way. I was studying business finance. I was working as a busboy and was struggling to pay rent. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Anybody been there, done that before? Absolutely. So I happened to be riding my bike to work, and I drove by this little house, and there was a for sale sign in the yard. And I thought, I could live there, 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Why not? So I walked up to the house, knocked on the door, got the name of the individual that owned it, and called him up and said, "Hi, I'd like to buy your home." And he says, "Great, let's meet." So we got together, I went in, I looked around, fell in love with it because it was mine. Now he looked at me, he says, "You got a good job?" I said, "Yeah." Didn't tell him I was a busboy, but I said, "Yeah, I got a good job." He says, "You think you can afford this?" I'm like, "Oh, heavens, yes." And I shook his hand and said, "Done deal." And I walked out, and I started to panic because I had no money. But I thought, I knew a lot of people that had money, including my parents. So I got on the phone, started calling, one after the other, after the other, after the other, and guess what? Nope. No one wanted to give me any money. Could you believe it? I'm a busboy, How is that possible? So I had to go back to the owner of the house, tail between my legs, and say, "I'm sorry, I don't have any money, and I can't get any." And he looked at me, and I think he took pity on me. I think that's really what it was. And he says, "You seem like a good kid." And I'm like, "I am." "And you got a good job, right?" "Yeah, busboy." And he says, "Well, how about I do this? Have you ever heard of something called lease to own? Or have you ever heard of, rent to own? Does any of that make sense to you?" And I'm like, "No, I got no idea." And he says, "Well, here's what it is. I'll sell you the house, and I won't even make you put any money down. You just make payments to me, and as long as you're consistent, over time, that house will become yours." And I'm like, "Yeah, sign me up." So I walked out, and what the mortgage was, or rent was more than I was making as a busboy. Now I got a problem, right? I made a commitment to this guy, and then all of a sudden it just dawned on me, it's got 2 bedrooms. So I went out, talked to a bunch of my buddies that were living in the dorms. I said, "How'd you like to be your own man? I like to have parties in the yard. Come on." And I got one of them to say yes. And when he asked me how much it cost, guess how much? The exact amount of my mortgage. So it taught me a very important lesson. I can use the power of leverage. I can use other people's money to make money for myself. So over a period of time, having other people pay that mortgage, I was able to purchase that house. My very first house with no money out of my pocket. And it literally changed the trajectory of my life. because I realized I had that RiskOn moment, right? Where, ooh, man, I saw a vision of my future. So I went on to do lots and lots of real estate. As a matter of fact, I've been investing in real estate for over 35 years, and don't do the math, okay? Since you know my very first one. But I have done hundreds of deals around the country, tens of millions of dollars in real estate. And I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying that to help you understand anybody can do it. I've had the opportunity to travel the world. I have taught in 35 countries, tens of thousands of individuals just like you, how to take advantage of the greatest vehicle for wealth creation the world has ever seen. And I say that because that is what Todd has brought to you here today. Now, does real estate come with risk? Yes or no? Absolutely. And I love in Todd's book where he talks about risk, right? Nothing great happens without risk. I absolutely 100% agree with that. You got to get outside your comfort zone. You got to do something, because if you continue to do what you're doing, you're going to continue to get what you got. Y'all agree with that? Without question. But risk doesn't necessarily have to be dangerous. You can mitigate it. You can do the proper research. You can calculate. Now, there's still going to be risk, and you got to ask yourself, can I absorb it if it does happen? So what Todd has really helped me to understand is any deal you go into, there's going to be risk, but let's make it calculated. Let's understand what it is we're going to do, and that comes with knowledge. Now, I am going to try to help you a little bit here today. Money is made in the buy. Write that in your notes. What the heck? Because you know what? It's the most important thing you're going to learn. Money is made in the buy. Not in the sell. Money is made in the buy. Your ability as a real estate investor to go out there and get and find and acquire deals below cost is where your money will be made. However, you realize that profit when you sell it. So we've got to learn to keep those two things in mind. You got to know what your entrance strategy is. You got to know what your exit strategy is. If you don't know how you're getting out before you go in, don't do the deal. If you don't know how you're getting out, don't do the deal. Got to have that all up front. So what type of investor are you right now? Are you a risk taker? Are you a beginner? I don't so much care where you start. It's irrelevant to me. I don't care if you've actually, flipped 50 houses. Do you agree there's more for you to learn to become better and greater? Yes or no? Absolutely. And you can't do it by sitting on the couch. You got to do it by getting involved and making it happen. So ask yourself, what type of investor do you want to become? Now, there are so many different things, like I said, we can talk about here today. There's short-term strategies, there's long-term strategies, passive residual, instant, all sorts of different things. I'm going to cover a couple of them. Bird dogging. Now, who was he talking to down here when he talked about bird dogging? Got an investor over here. What's your name? Who? Right here. Dom? Okay. So Dom's an investor. Would you like people to come and bring you deals all day long? As long as you make money with them. Would you be willing to pay somebody to do that? Absolutely. So bird dogging is a really easy way for guys that don't have a lot of experience, don't have any money, the opportunity to get in. Learn strategies, how to go out there, and I'll show you a couple of them today, that you can go out there and get great deals. And if you don't have the money, you don't have the experience, sell them to Dom. He'll pay you. Wholesaling. All right, so let's talk about wholesaling for a second. How many of you heard the concept of wholesaling? Anybody at all on this show? It's another one of those great beginner strategies that allow you to get in early, find great deals, sell them to another investor without you actually having to take the risk on, put up any money of yourself. Vacation rentals, Airbnb, Verbo. How many of you heard of those before? That's the hottest thing in the market, right? Oh my gosh, there's people losing their shorts right now. Losing their shorts. It was hot 2-3 years ago. I mean, you couldn't fail. Okay, I got a buddy that lives in Hawaii that built some tree houses, and they're constantly booked. Day after day after day after day. People want to live in the jungle in Hawaii in a tree house. He makes a ton of money. I got another good friend of mine that bought a property down in Moab, Utah, right? And he can't, it's constantly booked. But you want to know why? Because they're unique. The days of just buying any old thing and throwing it out there are slim to none anymore. Because one deal will change your trajectory, just like that little deal that I did 5 years ago. Okay, when I was 23.